The following is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated.
A team vying for a top NFL draft pick doesn't take the big, nasty. An MVP candidate has an absolute dumpster Pelican performance. A rookie quarterback takes command of his franchise to secure their 10th victory of the season. All that and more on this edition of the 69th episode, holiday special edition of Total Football Talk. Welcome, one and all. It's that time again. Yes, we are back for Total Football Talk, not extra, and at a different time. Happy holidays. It is the holiday time of the season. Merry Christmas to those of you out there who celebrate this great holiday known as Christmas. And if you didn't see it last week on Sertoba Media, you could check out the Taco Tuesday Destroyed Santa episode. And tonight, though, or today, or in the afternoon, whichever time you are watching this, whether you are watching this live right now or syndicated, we are doing this for the Week 16 NFL games that you missed from this past weekend. Whether you watched all of them or you didn't, we're going to recap them here today. Again, I am Drew Willingham, and we are here to discuss much in the NFL action today. I do not have my guy Cole Johnson with me today as he is on the road. It is holiday time. He is traveling. He could not make it today, but I will be doing this episode by myself tonight so we can get the recap of this past weekend's action. And with that being said, let's go ahead and take this into the opening drive and look at the opening games from this past weekend.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Great.
And here with the opening drive, we're going to start it out with the Saturday games because we discussed the Thursday night game from this past week on Total Football Talk Extra. And here with Saturday, we had two games from this past Saturday. The Houston Texans taking on the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens. And we're going to break both of those down. The Chiefs game was the first game of the two this past Saturday, December 21st. And with the Chiefs, the team that has come into this one 13-1, looking to get their 14th win on the year, and they did, winning this game 27-19. Patrick Mahomes 26 of 41 for 260 passing yards and a passing touchdown, along with 5 carries for 33 yards on the day and a rushing touchdown. Kareem Hunt 11 carries for 55 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, along with 2 receptions for 24 yards. Xavier Worthy, 7 receptions for 65 yards and a touchdown, along with the Chiefs defense accumulating 2 sacks on the day for 2 interceptions as well by Jaden Hicks and Trent McDuffie. Harrison Butker also added 2 field goals, was perfect on the day, 2 of 2 on this day, and field goals with a long of 44 yards. CJ Stroud on the other side, 23 of 39 for 244 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns, along with 2 interceptions, which was the difference maker in this game, in my opinion. He added 2 carries on the day for 23 yards on the ground. Tank Dell, a devastating injury to him in this game. We'll get to more of that here in a minute. But he had 6 receptions for 98 yards and a touchdown. You know, between all of the production between the Chiefs and the Texans here, I would say that the main news in this was the turnovers. The turnovers by C.J. Stroud, the 2 interceptions that he threw, made a difference in this game. Got to give a shout out as well to Dante as Dante is tuning in. We'll talk more about that Commanders and Eagles game here in a little bit. But right now, we're going to talk about the Texans and the Chiefs. This past Saturday, this game was pretty tight when you look at it from the beginning. The difference maker, I believe, was when Tank Dell got hurt in this game later on. You know, it was after the third quarter when he had his 30-yard touchdown pass with 11 minutes and 40 seconds. It brought Houston back to where they could have tied the game up, but the devastating injury on that play in the third quarter, Kami Fairbairn missed the extra point, and they were still down 17-16. But before all that, when this game started, it really opened up in the first quarter, midway through, and Patrick Mahomes had a 15-yard run with the Harrison Butker kick. They would go up 7-0. Kami Fairbairn would make his first field goal attempt on the day, a 33-yard field goal. They would be down 7-3 at the end of the first quarter. In the second quarter, Dalton Schultz would have a 10-yard pass from C.J. Stroud. With the Kami Fairbairn kick, the Houston Texans would take their first lead of the game, their first and only lead. They would be up 10-7 with 10 minutes and 9 seconds left in the second quarter. Kareem Hunt would then have a 3-yard run on the next ensuing drive. And with 4 minutes and 38 seconds left in the game, they would go up 14-10. The Harrison Butker would also add a 44-yard field goal after this with 19 seconds left in the first half. The Chiefs would be up 17-10 at halftime. Tank Dell would take that 30-yard pass from C.J. Stroud that we were just talking about a minute ago with 11 minutes and 40 seconds left in the third quarter, and he would get injured on this play. We'll talk more about Tank Dell and that injury here after this overview. When it comes to that, they answered after this. The Chiefs did. The Chiefs mother-bothering answered after that, though. The momentum shifted with that injury. They were able to take almost 10 minutes off the clock with this next drive that they had. They would go 24-16, be up by 8 points at the end of the third quarter. In the fourth, the Texans would try to make a little bit of a run back with the field goal. Kami Fairbairn would try to make up for his missed extra point, and they would be down 24-19 with just about 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But Harrison Butker would answer with another field goal by the Chiefs. Chiefs would win 27-19 at the end of the game. Now, with Tank Dell and that injury, you got to take a look at this. I mean, the knee injury, it was very significant. There were certain angles they didn't even show after the initial play because they didn't want to show the actual angle of which it took place. It looked gruesome. I remember watching it when it initially happened because I was watching it in the moment on the NFL Plus app. And I'm telling you, this was pretty serious. I definitely know he's not coming back this year, and it's a major blow to this team at this point when you have 2 weeks left in the regular season after this game, and you're looking to just scratch and claw your way there. You've been struggling all year on both sides of the ball, whether it be the consistency on offense or your defense slipping and not playing up to the standard of what they were. This is the team that you got your biggest challenge against, and you're playing against the defending Super Bowl champion, the back-to-back defending Super Bowl champions who were 13-1 coming into this game, now 14-1 after playing you, and sending them on an actual easier path to the Super Bowl, or at least to the first round bye, with the Bills losing, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But with the Chiefs winning this game and improving to 14-1, this, I tell you, was a huge test for both, not only them, but for the Texans. And despite that injury to Tank Dell, which I wish him a very speedy recovery, I definitely know at this point there is no hope for the Texans in 2024. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery and gets well for 2025, and they can add some more weapons around C.J. Stroud because he definitely needs more help over there in Houston. Our next game that we're going to talk about that was on Saturday as well, Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Baltimore to take on the mother-fathering Baltimore Ravens. This is for the division pretty much, as this is a division rivalry between these two teams. Now, looking at this for what it was, Baltimore wins it 34-17. Lamar Jackson 15-23 for 207 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns with an interception. Also adds 9 carries for 22 yards on the day. Derrick Henry, though, was definitely the huge factor for their rushing attack. 24 carries on the day for 162 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Also had 2 receptions for 27 yards, accumulating a total of 189 all-purpose yards on the day. The Ravens' offense, mainly with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and some help with others, 220 rushing yards on the day for the Ravens. A huge reasons why they beat the Steelers this past Saturday night. Zay Flowers also had 5 receptions for 100 receiving yards. For the other side, Russell Wilson, 22-33 for 217 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He did have an interception, and he did have 3 carries for 27 yards on the day, but it wasn't enough to get the Steelers over the hump of just 17 points against the Ravens 34. Micah Fitzpatrick did haul in the 1 interception that Lamar Jackson threw, but he was offset by 3 passing touchdowns and the production from King Henry in this rushing attack by the Ravens. The Ravens win this 34-17, and when they do that, they tie the Steelers for the best record in that division, for 10-15 in the AFC North. Looking at it for what it is, it's definitely a crapshoot over there. They're both going back and forth, punching each other in the mouth. Definitely see an interesting ending to this season for not only that division, but the other divisions within the NFL. This has definitely been a good contest between these two throughout this season. When you look at the fact they're both 10-5, the Bengals 7-8, and the Browns 3-12 have no mother-fathering shot at catching either one of these two teams. They're not going to be the best in the AFC, but I can at least say this, regardless if they win the division and get that home game for the first round, or if they don't and they finish in second for the division, both of these two teams are going to make it to the playoffs in 2024. Our next game, we're gonna look at a rookie's first game, a mollywhopping of a team that it didn't even necessarily need him in the game, I don't believe, whether it was him or the original starting quarterback. I don't think that it would have mattered. I think they would have beat this team decisively regardless, and it's one of the biggest factors of why I think the coaching staff started in this past week, and that is when the Atlanta Falcons with Michael Penix Jr. win over the Giants 34-17 at home. Penix Jr. 18-27 on the day for 202 passing yards and an interception. Bijan Robinson, the main factor of why this team won the game, 22 carries on the day, 94 yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. Also added 2 receptions for 9 yards on the day. He also, with the accumulation of the Falcons' total offense, 127 rushing yards by the Falcons on the day, a big reason of why they were in the positive production for this team on this day. When you look at this for Darnell Mooney, he also had 5 receptions for 82 yards on the day. The Falcons' defense, 2 sacks and 2 interceptions by Matthew Judon and Jesse Bates III. Massive production by the Atlanta Falcons. Shout out to my guy Corey Mann and those out there who are true Falcons fans, not fair weathered. And hopefully for you, hopefully you get to enjoy a berth in this year's playoffs and get to face a pretty solid team and have at least a good game out of that first round, whether you win or you lose. And an entertaining contest is what I'm hoping for you. You win out this season, you get to see something positive from your rookie quarterback, and a positive, hopeful future for your team. Drew Lock on the other side, though, is not positive and hopeful for him in New York as he goes 22-39, 210 passing yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Malik Neighbors, 7 receptions of 68 yards is pretty much the round out of the positive production for this Giants team as they lose 34-7 and take a massive The Giants on the year fall to 2-13, losing their 10th consecutive game on the year. No hope, but at least they have a top number one pick at this point in the year. They are the worst team in the NFL, and we'll talk more about them here in a little bit on this show. Now, that was the first of them, but let's go ahead and, truly take it into the Sunday games. That New York and Atlanta game was the first of the 1 o'clock games on Sunday. The second one being the Detroit Lions traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. Let me redo that, as we got to have a few edits for the radio station in the MP3 and the other editions. Detroit Lions travel to Chicago to take on the Bears and absolutely decimate them, 34-17. Jared Goff, 23 of 32, 336 passing yards on the day with 3 passing touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs, 23 carries for 109 passing yards with 109 rushing yards with a rushing touchdown, along with 4 receptions for 45 yards on the day. Jamison Williams, 5 receptions for 143 yards and a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 receptions, 70 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. Sam Laporta, 4 receptions, 43 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Those pretty much round out the highlights and the reason why the Lions put up 34 points on the day. Caleb Williams, 26 of 40 for 334 passing yards with 2 passing touchdowns, along with 6 carries for 34 yards. He took care of the football for the most part, but just couldn't put up, the overall points to match with the Lions' trailblazing of an offense at this point. I say trailblazing because they're doing different things that other teams in the past haven't done consistently and well with what Dan Campbell has done for his few years of coaching, going for it in 4th down. Being that consistent with going for it and successful, he's been trailblazing with, the factor of you get 4 downs, use them. And if you believe in your team against the matchup, go for it. And he's been proving it and proving it still throughout this game. Keenan Allen with the Bears also had a turn back the clock kind of a game, 9 receptions for 141 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. Altogether, though, he was half of what Caleb Williams could do on the day, but Keenan Allen just wasn't enough as the only real weapon to answer the call for Caleb. And the rest of them were being blocked really well. The defense of the Lions steamrolled through this Bears team despite the injuries. This was a good division matchup when you look at the two teams on paper. Lions 13-2, along with the Vikings, is going to be interesting as this year ends with the next 2 games of the season. You got to end one of them with the Vikings, and it's coming fast, and it's coming soon. 2 weeks left after this game for the Lions to prove if they are not only the best team in the division, but the best team in the NFL. We shall see with 2 weeks left in the regular season. That's for sure. The Bears aren't going anywhere, but they're going towards the top pick again next year. The Rams travel to New York to take on the Jets and take another win on the year to help improve their record. They have been struggling at certain points as they have had slow starts of the years past. But looking at the Rams getting to 9-6, 3 wins above 500 when they came into this game, 8-6 and barely at that. Looking at them putting up 19 points on the day on the road in New York. Matthew Stafford, 14-19 for 110 yards, a touchdown, and interception as well. But despite the lackluster numbers, helped lead the team towards a positive win in this game, as Kieran Williams was the main part of the offense with 23 carries, establishing the run with those for only 122 rushing yards. And I say only because I believe he could have done better with certain plays. There were certain holes that he should have gone through and established more yardage. But unfortunately, it didn't work out in his favor with that. But 122 yards is still respectable and puts up a touchdown on the day, adding a reception with 7 receiving yards as well. Speaking of receiving, Puka Nacua, 8 receptions for 56 receiving yards. And the kicker on their team, Josh McCarty, 2 of 2 on the day for field goals with a long of 45 yards. Aaron Rodgers on the other side, 28 of 42 on the day for 256 passing yards with a passing touchdown. He did add one carry for 60 yards. Wasn't like his 45 rushing yard performance from the week prior, but he did put up some positive yardage in the game on the ground. But not as positive as Devontae Adams had with 7 receptions for 68 yards and a receiving touchdown. Between the two of them, that's all they can muster up was that one touchdown connection. The Jets struggle, and they struggle hard. When you look at the fact they are 4-11, there's a lot of questions that's around this team throughout this year. Who will stay? Who will go? Who will retire? Who will not? Who will be axed and who will be hired? Those are the questions surrounding this team in New York. And we shall see what happens at the end of this season for this team and for this franchise that is playing like an absolute. Two games left in the regular season. I'm pretty sure this isn't the last time we see Aaron Rodgers and the Jets take the... At least one of the last two games for him, if not both, they will see that capital L again in their future. But when you look at this game for what it is, it was pretty much this. I know you're probably saying, why didn't you click that for the Falcons and the Giants? And why didn't you click that for the Lions and the Bears? Well, I mean, it was expected out of the Lions and the Bears, and it was expected against the Falcons and the Giants. The other two games before that weren't quite as bad. And despite the 34-17 score for the Ravens and the Steelers, it was a little bit closer, in my opinion. This game truly, because of the Jets and Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers and what you should have got out of them, you know damn well that this definitely deserves the... When it comes to dumpster Pelicans, Aaron Rodgers is up there. I can't quite put my finger on it. He's probably the third, if not the second worst dumpster Pelican. But there was worse performances than this, and we're going to cover them. I mean, when we look back on not only this, you got to look at Matthew Stafford for what he did, even though they won. His running back saved him. We could put him up there on this list of dumpster Pelicans on the day. Probably third or fourth longest beak on here for the worst dumpster Pelican of the damn day. You know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to playing like an absolute dumpster Pelican. Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers. This was the dumpster Pelican Bowl. It wasn't just you, the New York Jets, that took the L. We, as the people, as humanity, took the... For watching this game. You and I both know, as we are watching, I'm not watching this, I'm performing, as you are watching live, you know this right here, and I'll get to your comments here in a second. Thank you to those of you who've been tuning in and commenting. You know damn well that if you watch this game between Matthew Stafford and Aaron Rodgers from start to finish, you as the fan of football, whether you're a fan of the team or a fan of the sport, took the... I rest my case. Time to get to the comments. Got some comments here into the chat. Thank you all for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it right here on the evening. Mickey Delaney's in the house. Between him and Dante Hill started off saying, "What's up, guys?" Mickey says, "How are you, Dante?" What's up, Mickey, from Dante? What's good, everybody, for Sick Niggy? And Six even loving the shades. I believe I saw a comment about the shades. If I go down, nice shades. Thank you. They are prescription. They are prescription shades. I got them just before the Christmas. Christmas is tomorrow. Christmas Eve. And With my insurance, you get a discount, once per year or whatnot on a good pair. And then like on the second pair, which I used for sunglasses, prescription one, I always get a new pair when I get a new pair of glasses because I'm outside a lot. Between that, and I figured it'd be cool to try them out with the blue background tonight. So what do you think? Let me know here in the comments if you think about my prescription sunglasses as we're rocking it with the blue background. Says they're even better. Shout out to Sick Dicky for the comments. Dante says, I had to work Sunday, and all the guys that was unloading talked about how bad Chicago was. Yes, absolutely. When you look at the comparison between them and the Lions, there's no contest. There was no way that team was going to win against this Lions team, even despite the injuries the Lions have had. So, Sick also says, happy holidays to all of you out there. Shout out to the holidays who are celebrating. No matter what holiday you celebrate, whether it was before this week, after this week, or not even during this month, whatever holiday you celebrate. Shout out to you right now. The 23rd is the 23rd to me. Says I look badass. Well, thank you, Mick. I appreciate the comments saying that I look badass with the prescription sunglasses and the blue background. I'm going to keep rocking and rolling out here in these streams. Thank you all for tuning in and for the comments. I'll get to more of those as we go. But it's time now that we carry on to the next game that was another matchup between two Dumpster Pelican teams. And we say this because you got to look at the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland mother-fathering Browns. Traveling to Cincinnati, not too far from Cleveland. Within the state of Ohio. Cleveland, Cincinnati. Not too far of a trip. But hey, Cleveland gets their expletive whooped as they lose 24-6 to the home team Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow, 23 of 30 for 252 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 2 carries for 19 yards on the day as well for Joe Burrow. For old Slicky JB, Chase Brown also adds 18 carries for 91 yards on the day, 3 receptions for 18 yards. He musters up as well to get a total of 109 all-purpose yards on the day. Jamar Chase, 6 receptions for 97 receiving yards and a touchdown. T. Higgins, 8 receptions for 58 yards with the receiving touchdown, rounds out the production for the Cincinnati Bengals offense. Geno Stone and Jordan Battle also add interceptions on the day for the Bengals, and it was pretty lackluster for the Browns, but we can at least say the DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, added 20 completions of 34 attempts for 157 passing yards and 2 interceptions. He also added 9 carries for 49 yards, along with Jerome Ford's 11 carries for 92 rushing yards and a touchdown, with 5 receptions for 39 yards in the air. It's all the production the Browns could match against the Bengals team that, again, scored 18 more points than them on the day. Definitely a big lackluster performance. And if you didn't watch this game, you're probably better off, because this game right here is pretty ugly between these two teams. A state matchup, an old rivalry between these two teams right here. When you look at it for what it was going out of the first quarter, there was 7-0 for the Bengals. And they kept steering forward as they were leading 17-0 at halftime. It wasn't until the third quarter with 5 minutes left when Jerome Ford would take that touchdown and they would miss the kick. Not even a 2-point conversion the Browns missed. They missed an extra point kick when they had that only score of the game in the third quarter with about 5 minutes left. So looking at it for what it was, they were doomed from the start. They were set down 17-6. Jamar Chase would take a touchdown with a little less than 2 minutes left in the game for a total score of 24-6 for this Bengals team. Looking at it for what it was, I mean, can we say that this qualifies for another one of these? I think it does. This is another one where if you watch the game, you took the... Let me know here in the comments what you think on this special holiday edition of Total Football Talk, where we are going to absolutely destroy the Cowboys here in a little bit. So taking this picture, taking this graphic, taking that smile on my face with the championship as we celebrate Christmas and we celebrate the new year coming up. Are they still them boys? Because they won't see the Super Bowl for the 29th consecutive season. We got plenty more to talk about, and we'll get to that here real soon. But when it comes to that game for the Bengals and Browns, you didn't see the highlights. You're not missing much out here, brother. Titans travel to Indianapolis to take on the Colts, another game that we would eventually have thought with Will Levis potentially playing, that this would have been terrible. But it absolutely wasn't. It was actually a high-scoring contest, 38-30. The Colts win at home because Will Levis wasn't playing. He was replaced by a racist last week. Cole and I talked about that and got plenty of good laughs out of that. Anthony Richardson, 7 of 11 on passing for the day, completions out of attempts, 131 passing yards with a touchdown and an interception. Mainly contributed with 9 carries for 70 yards on the ground and a touchdown. When you look at that, his main production and his main weapon outside of him, though, was Jonathan Taylor. 29 carries he established on the ground for 218 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. The highlight of the Colts on this day, absolutely the reason why they won. Between him and Richardson, they both combined for 38 carries. The Colts offense altogether had 335 rushing yards on this day. It's absolutely nuts when you think about that when we are live right now. 335 mother-bothering rushing yards. Woo! Man, Colts on fire. And they had to do that to beat the Titans. That's the even crazier part. You had to put up that type of production to beat the Titans with as bad as they have been this year. What do you think here in the comments when looking at the Titans? Let me know as we are live out there. Dante, Sick, Mick, all of you out there, even those of you who are tuning in for the first time. If you haven't, click that like button on this video. Help us out with the algorithm so more people can see it. If you haven't clicked that share button, click that share button. Yes, I'm begging for likes and shares. Why not? Not begging for your money. I'm not a panhandler out here in these streets, but I will say, can you help me out with the algorithm? Let's get this video viewed, especially when you see awesome graphics like this one, where we're going to talk about them boys here in a little bit now. Now, coming on back to this as we are live in the comments. We'll get to you here shortly. But the Titans and Colts, again, 335 rushing yards between these running backs of the Colts combined, primarily Jonathan Taylor, 218 on the ground with 3 rushing touchdowns. Kenny Moore, the second on the defense with 2 interceptions, and Samuel Womack the third with an interception. These second and third generations of their name of House Moore and House Womack, Moore the second and Moore the third, contributing with interceptions. Moore the second with 2 and Womack with 1. Greatness for the Colts with the ones who are secondary and third of their name of their houses. Great job by the Colts beating the Titans, because nobody likes the Titans anyway, especially not my man Cole Johnson or myself, D. Mother, Father, and Willie. Especially when you got to play a racist who is playing as their quarterback for their team. 23 of 34 on the day the racist goes for 252 passing yards, 2 interceptions. 2 passing touchdowns and 3 interceptions. My apologies. Mason Rudolph goes on the day. Tyjae Spears, 10 carries for 27 yards on the ground and 2 rushing touchdowns. He also has 3 receptions for 39 yards on the day. Calvin Ridley, 3 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown, is the main highlight for this team known as the Titans. But you and I, myself, and you out there, the fan, know that you enjoy watching the Titans, no matter who they play, get served the Moving on to a better game out here in these streams. This game I would have considered for potentially the game of the week. It was looking close to be an upset with the Seahawks potentially winning when they got the lead later in this game between the Seahawks and the Vikings. This was a good game. I definitely enjoyed it, and I think you won't even disagree with the upset of the week or the game of the week that we'll get to here in a little bit. But this one was contending up there, and especially with the Seahawks getting the touchdown with 4 minutes left in the game, it could have paid off to where we could have had this as the upset of the week, I believe, but it didn't. As the Vikings would win on the road 27-24, still top of their division with the Lions at a 13-2 record at the top of the NFC North as they face each other here at the end of the year. The Vikings on an 8-game winning streak, which is a big reason why we are talking about them in this light at this point of the year. Sam Darnold, 22 of 35, 246 passing yards with 3 passing touchdowns, 5 carries on the day for 11 rushing touchdowns as well. Aaron Jones, 18 carries for 67 yards on the ground, 3 receptions for 26 receiving yards, positive production, and also pretty much nearly had 100 all-purpose yards with both receiving and rushing combined on 21 total plays contributed for his offense. Jordan Addison, 5 receptions for 35 yards in the air with the receiving touchdown. Justin Jefferson, though, 10 receptions for 144 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. The Vikings defense, 2 sacks with 2 interceptions. Theo Jackson and Dallas Turner, including with those 2 interceptions for the Vikings defense. The 2 sacks and the 2 interceptions by that Vikings defense were huge when you can combine that with what the Seahawks did on the other side. Without those 2 interceptions that they hauled in by Geno Smith throwing it to them, that there's no way that the Vikings would have been able to keep their streak to go into 8 wins now after this game. So big shout to the Vikings defense. Sam Darnold also shout to him for not turning the ball over, but a huge shout to the Vikings defense for hauling those turnovers in. Geno Smith, the reason why the Seattle Seahawks lost this game, 31 of 43 on the day for 314 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and 2 interceptions that we were just talking about the defense hauling in for the Vikings were thrown by Geno Smith. He also had 1 carry for 8 yards. He's got to play better if we're going to talk about the Seahawks as a team that can contend. They're 8-7 now. Got a new head coach this year. We didn't expect but so much out of them. But he's had some up and down games this year, and I just expect more out of Geno to where we don't see the type of interceptions that he contributed in this game happen. I didn't expect to see these interceptions take place. Maybe 1, but not 2, especially the second one that he threw later in the game. I didn't expect to see that out of Geno. So the Vikings defense definitely stepping up, but I want to say it was more so he was kind of like taking on the role of Will Levis this week as the gift that keeps on giving in the eyes of what Cole Johnson would say, because he was just giving them gifts this week. Geno Smith, the new gift that keeps on giving, in my opinion. Shout out to Will Levis for taking a break from that title this week. Jackson Smith and Najigba, 8 receptions for 95 yards for the touchdown. They contributed to Geno Smith's total numbers, as well as DK Metcalf's 3 receptions for 57 yards in the air for the receiving touchdown. It's all they could do, but it wasn't like it was a blowout game. It was more so decided by the fact that Geno Smith gave them Christmas presents with those 2 interceptions. And this week, I can nominate Geno Smith for the award of the gift that keeps on giving out here in these streams. Moving on to the next game, another division matchup between a team that has an MVP candidate and a team that's trying to get the number 1 spot in the AFC, has already clinched a playoff spot, but is trying to get the number 1 spot in the AFC. That being the Josh Allen-led Buffalo Bills, who took a win this past weekend, but it wasn't pretty. Playing against the New England Patriots, who came into their house. The Bills win 24-21 in this game. Josh Allen, 16-29 for 154 passing yards, a touchdown and an interception, along with 6 carries for 30 yards. These are numbers that you don't see out of an MVP candidate, especially against the team like the New England Patriots that we have watched this year be an absolute dumpster pelican-like team with the record of 3-11 coming into this game against the Buffalo Bills. And after losing this game, they fall to 3-12. But it looked like for a minute the Patriots had an opportunity to win against the Bills, especially when you look at the fact that Josh Allen playing very pedestrian-like with the 16-29 for his completions on the day with 154 passing yards. I mean, altogether, when you look at what he did with the touchdown and interception and 6 carries for 30 yards, very lackluster performance for an MVP candidate, and we'll talk more about that later in the show. James Cook, though, is what saved the day for this Buffalo Bills team. 11 carries for 100 rushing yards on the day with 1 rushing touchdown. He had 3 receptions for 26 yards in the air with the receiving touchdown, contributing 2 scores for this team. And the one touchdown pass by Josh Allen was hauled in by James Cook. So the MVP of this game between the Bills and the Patriots, I would say, was James Cook. Shout out to him for what he did to keep this streak going for the Bills in the chance of potentially getting the number 1 spot if the Chiefs lose one of their next 2 games or lose both of their next 2 games in order to give them the spot with the Bills winning the next 2. But we'll talk more about that at the end of the show. Tyler Bass, 1-1 on the day for a field goal of 50 yards, helped contribute towards this Bills win as they won by that field goal that he kicked of 50 yards. Drake May on the other side for the Patriots, 22 of 36 for 261 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. In the interception, just like in the past game with Geno Smith and the Seahawks, like this one with the Patriots, that interception made a huge difference. Even though Josh Allen threw an interception, I feel like Drake May's made an even bigger impact on this game than Josh Allen's. Drake May also had 6 carries for 30 yards, just like Josh Allen on this day. Ramondre Stevenson, 12 carries for 60 rushing yards with a rushing touchdown, along with 1 reception for 13 yards in the air. Patriots still just don't have enough to contend in this division. Not only that, and if you can't contend with your division, you can't contend with the league, or you can't contend with your conference. If you can't contend with your division, and you can't contend with the league if you can't contend with your conference. So I'm going to say that the Patriots, with this type of performance, they've performed like I just said with not being able to contend. But I think the Buffalo Bills definitely did not live up to their potential that they have at this point. And it's not injuries, and they cannot play this sloppy in the playoffs if they're going to live up to the hype that I have put on them this year and many others saying they're going to get to the Super Bowl to face the Lions. It's games like this that could potentially come back to bite me and prove me wrong for the predictions that I have had for the Bills, even though they won. Even though they found a way to win just like the Chiefs are, I think this was a top-tier, ugly loss, in my opinion. They could have gone in that way and could have gone wrong had it not gone right for them with the running attack for James Cook, because Josh Allen was not offsetting his bad quarterback play with the lack of production that he had with his legs in this game. 5 carries per 6 runs is not good enough of a performance, in my opinion, to offset that. So looking at it for what it is, I got to say that Josh Allen was not the MVP of this win. It was definitely James Cook serving that big old L to the Patriots and not Josh Allen. This next game, I would say, was another one that was absolutely The Las Vegas Raiders hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars, winning 19-14. Aiden O'Connell, 24-38 for 257 passing yards, 7 carries on the day for 12 yards as well. No touchdowns by Aiden O'Connell, but didn't turn the ball over either. Amir Abdullah, 7 carries for 38 yards and a rushing touchdown, along with 5 receptions for 47 receiving yards. Alex Madison, 12 carries for 27 yards and a touchdown, had also 4 receptions for 29 receiving yards. These two running backs being the core of the offense for the day, at least as far as the production of the scoring goes. Brock Bowers, 11 receptions for 99 yards, set up those scoring plays. And Daniel Carlson knocked 2 field goals in out of 3 attempts, with one of those going for a long of nearly 50 yards, that being a 49-yard field goal. For the other side, for the Jaguars, the quarterback at the helm, Mac and Cheese Jones. 25 of 39 on the day, 247 passing yards, and a passing touchdown. When you look at that along with Tank Bigsby's 12 carries for 50 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. The two of them put up 2 touchdowns between Mac and Cheese passing touchdown and Tank's rushing touchdown. But Brian Robinson Jr. hauled in that only passing touchdown by Mac and Cheese as he put up 9 receptions for 132 passing yards. Even though they got those 2 scores, it just wasn't enough against a team like the Las Vegas Raiders, who, just like I said in the opening intro, they're going for a top-tier draft pick, and this team right here takes a win. It just goes to show that they got fight in them, and they're not going out here trying to get this top pick in the next draft. They're not going out there trying to lose and tank the season. Even though they had a 2-12 record coming into it, they fought all the way through, or at least fought all the way through the second quarter. And then in the end, they put up those 2 field goals to take a victory over this team. Well, actually, no, I take that back. They put up a touchdown, I forgot, in the end of the game, a 7-yard run that I was talking about earlier with the Amir Abdullah run. With a failed 2-point conversion, they were trying to go up by 7, but instead go up by 5. And at the end, that's what the total score would be, a 19-14 victory for this Las Vegas Raiders team. And they, I would say, if it was against a better team and not the number 32 ranked defense in passing and rushing and even overall defense in the Jacksonville Jaguars, I would say that this game right here would be an upset of the week. But unfortunately, it was against a team that was just as bad, if not worse, than them. But still, shout out to the Raiders for not quitting and not doing what the Giants are doing by going out there and absolutely giving themselves the on to the next one. San Francisco 49ers travel to Miami to take on the Dolphins in pretty good weather. Dolphins, though, win this game 29-17 to the traveling 49ers. Tua Tagovailoa, 22 of 34 on the day for 215 passing yards and a passing touchdown with no turnovers. Devon Achane, 17 carries for 120 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Also added 6 receptions for 70 yards on the day. It's the highlight of this team's offense, along with the fact that altogether their rushing attack put up 166 total rushing yards. Tyreek Hill, 3 receptions for 29 yards, was quiet on the day, but hauled in Tua's lone touchdown pass for a total of 29-17 for this Miami Dolphins offense. Their defense, 3 sacks with an interception by Kader Kohou. Altogether with Jason Sanders' 5 field goals out of 5 attempts, with one of those being a long of 54 yards, is the reason why they won this game by 12 points. Brock Purdy on the other side, 26 of 40 for 313 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and an interception, along with 4 carries for 26 yards on the day. Deebo Samuel, 7 receptions for 96 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. He also added 5 carries for 25 rushing yards on the day. Deebo altogether with a total of 121 all-purpose yards was a spark for the 49ers But between that and George Kittle's 8 receptions for 106 receiving yards, they were the main sparks behind Brock Purdy, but couldn't do enough for the entirety of the 49ers to surpass this Dolphins team that is fighting and clawing and trying to make one of the biggest comebacks in the NFL this year after the way they started this season. So shout out to the Dolphins for coming out here and fighting in this game and getting to a 7-8 record on the year. 49ers fall to 6-9, definitely not making the playoffs at this point for the 49ers. The Dolphins still having a glimmer of hope. We shall see. But for those fair weather fans out there, the 49ers, they did enjoy myself, for those of you out there who do deserve to be a part of this group, to watch you take this in this game. Sorry, not sorry. Let's take a look at the comments real quick. See what you guys out here have been saying since the last time I had a chance to review the comments. And Dante says, gotta go, guys, but here are my thoughts. Kenny Pickett was the reason we lost. His inability to extend plays with the legs. You know what? We're actually almost at that game. And since Dante is gone, even it doesn't matter, but I'll bring this up during the review of that because we're almost at that game. But Six says this. I'm going to bring this up real quick. The Bowling Shoe Ugly is brought to you by No Stank Athletics Foot Powder, the ideal foot powder to prevent foot odors, athlete's foot, and whatnot. No Stank Athletic. No stank, no problem. Hopefully I read that well. I might have to clip that out. That was good. And Lightning Blast Bowling, the best place for custom bowling shoes. Look sharp and win with Lightning Blast Bowling. That was good, Sick. I like those. Very, very good. Let's see what else do we have out here. But the Hawks can still win the NFC with winning on the 26th and the Rams losing on Sunday, says Mickey Delaney. Very, very true. We can see there's still life left for the Hawks. A lot more life than the 49ers. 49ers are done, so are the Cowboys. But at least you do have hope still. And then the Hawks and Rams on January 5th. I like it. And I like the matchups. And we'll be talking about those matchups and more over the upcoming weeks. For the teams who had a dismal 2024 season, should look at the upcoming spring and summer as time to restructure and regroup. Some teams might even require a rather hard reset. They might. And it's going to be teams like the Giants, if they can successfully do it, the Raiders, if they can successfully do it, and many more. And if the Browns don't have the cap to really redo it, the Jets need to direly. The Patriots, there's so many teams. The Titans, the Jags. There's many teams out there that have double-digit losses on the year. The Bears, who are 4-11. And the Panthers, all these franchises. It seems like there's more franchises this year that need a reset at this point than I can recall at one time in quite some time. When I just rattled off 8 different franchises right there. Let me know in the comments what you think, if it's attainable for all of these franchises to do it this offseason to be competitive next year. Because we're seeing it feels like we're seeing more teams at this point under 500 than above. And as always, subscribe now and never miss out on new content, whether you're watching this on Comey Media or Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and take this into our next game that we have followed the 49ers and the Dolphins game. We're going to take it to the Sunday night contest between the Buccaneers and the Cowboys that was on Peacock or NBC. Dallas Cowboys hosted the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last night. 26-24 was the final score on this Sunday night contest. Cooper Rush, 26 of 35 for 292 passing yards and a passing touchdown, along with CeeDee Lamb for hauled in 7 receptions for 105 receiving yards. The Cowboys defense 4 sacks on the day with an interception by Jordan Lewis. Brandon Aubrey 4 of 4 on the day for total field goals, with a long of 58 yards, made the difference in this game. If it was not for him and those long field goals, 2 of them being of 50-plus yards, this Cowboys team would not have won against the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield's interception was a costly one in this one for the Bucs, as he was 31 of 43 for 303 passing yards and 2 touchdowns thrown, but had that one interception that made a big difference in this game. Had 3 carries on the day as well for 42 passing yards. Bucky Irving was the heart of the offense for the Bucs. 16 carries for 68 rushing yards and a touchdown. Also had 3 receptions for 24 yards in the air, accumulating a total of 92 all-purpose yards. The Buccaneers offense altogether, however, had 134 rushing yards, which, on paper looks like it's good enough for a win. But when you have your field goal kicker on the other side taking advantages of the miscues for the other team, like they did over there in Tampa Bay with the miscues, Dallas took advantage of it, and they were actually able to serve the Buccaneers there. But the big story was before the game, when the Cowboys were mathematically eliminated, regardless of the outcome of that game, when they were eliminated with the win of the Commanders over the Eagles, they were eliminated from the playoffs and guaranteed to miss the Super Bowl for the 29th consecutive season. With that being said, right here, you got to give a lot of credit to the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy for even fighting for this game, for even fighting to win. They still have a chance to finish with a positive record at the end of this season. If they win the last 2 games of the year, they can not only finish with a 9-8 record, but impact other teams that are trying to make a playoff run, whether it be seeding, whether it be just making the playoffs in general. And the Cowboys can still affect, the whole trajectory of all that and still finish with a positive record. This says a lot of, about the grit and the heart of not only the players, but the coaches, and the fact that they still want to play with one another. It was Dak Prescott's injury that they believe was the reason why they are at this point. If they could finish 9-8 without him, their thought is imagine what they could have finished with him. So we shall see what happens over there in Big D for this offseason. But right here and now, with what happened in that game, I have to give a lot of props to the coaching staff, have to give a lot of props to the players for coming together and winning despite being mathematically eliminated, as we joke about, saying, are they still them boys? We can joke about it all we want to, but at least they as a team have unity and won this as a team despite being mathematically eliminated. We'll joke a little bit more about that here in a few. But with that being said, we'll talk more about the game that brought them to this point. Let's talk about this upset of the week. And yes, the upset of the week it was. That was when Philadelphia, the team in Philadelphia known as the Eagles, traveled to Washington to take on the Commanders, traveled to Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland to take on the Washington Commanders, a team that, lost to the Eagles earlier in the year when they came to Lincoln Financial Field. And the Eagles come into this one thinking that they were going to serve the big old... Instead, Jaden Daniels takes advantage of some opportunities, with that game that they got opportunities served to them in. But the big thing that affected the Eagles, though, in this game was when Jalen Hurts went down with an injury of a concussion in the first quarter. He started this game only having 4 passes thrown, 1 of 4 in that one completion that he had of 11 yards. He did have 3 rushes, One of those he sustained the concussion on for his last play that he was in, but mustered up 41 rushing yards on 3 rushing attempts. Besides that, when you look at the Commanders side, Jaden Daniels did throw 2 interceptions, but he was 24-39 on the day in passing completions, 258 passing yards, 5, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5. 5. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 passing touchdowns for Jaden Daniels. 9 carries for 81 yards on the ground as well. He was 91% of the Washington Commanders offense in this day. Mr. Zacchaeus for the receiving side for the Commanders, 5 receptions for 70 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Terry McLaurin, 5 receptions for 60 yards on the air with a receiving touchdown, rounded out the production from the 2 mainstays, but somebody who just came over recently from the practice squad, an old face of the previous past from the Washington Redskins and the football team era, was Jamison Crowder, who came in with 2 receptions on the day for 15 yards. Both of those receptions accumulated a total of 2 receiving touchdowns. So he had the same amount of touchdowns as Zacchaeus, and altogether between those 3 receivers put up the 5 touchdown production day for Jaden Daniels. The Commanders' defense also added 4 sacks and an interception by Frankie Louvu to dominate Kenny Pickett, who was the second-string quarterback. He came in for Jalen Hurts, 14-24 on the day for 143 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown and an interception, along with 3 carries for 13 yards. Definitely played like the list of dumpster Pelicans right here. I would say probably the 4th worst dumpster Pelican on the day, behind Josh Allen. But on the day, when it comes to this game right here, Saquon Barkley was the heart and soul of the rushing attack for the Eagles, but just wasn't enough to basically look past the turnovers for Kenny Pickett on this day, or at least that and the fumble, because he did have a fumble too. Barkley put up 29 carries for 150 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. A.J. Brown had 8 receptions for 97 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. Devontae Smith, 6 receptions for 51 receiving yards and a touchdown, along with a carry for 1 yard. Jake Elliott, 4 of 5 for field goals with a long of 50 yards, missing a field goal that could have been a decisive factor in this game, potentially going to overtime, like another game we'll talk about that is the game of the week. But with this game right here, had Jake Elliott made that field goal, had Kenny Pickett not thrown an interception, even though Jaden Daniels threw 2, the fact that Jaden Daniels threw 2 interceptions, Kenny Pickett having an interception, and Jake Elliott missing a field goal, and they still lost the game. Like, the Eagles should have won this game and would have won this game if Jalen Hurts was playing and didn't get knocked out in the first quarter. This was literally like a Hollywood scripted game when you look at it for what it is, with your starter going down in the first quarter, a starter that was a big reason why they won several weeks ago against you when they hosted you in Philly. Now the road team coming to Landover, Northwest Stadium, getting this win. Getting this loss. You stand tall against a team with a pretty bad backup quarterback, but you did it and you served them there. Holding Saquon Barkley to 5 negative rushing plays in the game, having Jaden Daniels literally be 91% of your offense on the day. I mean, this was a huge win for the Commanders. The first time a rookie has ever had 2 come from behind victories in 30 seconds or less in a game. This right here, a big statement of why Jaden Daniels is the Rookie of the Year, the NFC Offensive Rookie of the Year, or the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. Definitely Player of the Week for that. And to be at the Hail Mary game when they were rocking these jerseys, while I was rocking that jersey, to be at the Hail Mary game for that and to see this it brought back the same goosebumps that I had at the end of that contest when I was there at the same place. Jaden Daniels is making history over at Northwest Stadium. The fact that they did this with 6 seconds left on the clock of the game was absolutely huge. It was huge for me as a fan. It was huge for me as someone who covers the game. And it was just great to watch the Eagles take this. Sorry, Dante, more so for Nick and for Kenny Pickett, not for you, just for them. Now, with that being the Eagles and the Commanders game, I do want to review Dante's comments about this game. He said he had to go earlier, but I want to bring up his comments that he had about this. Said Kenny Pickett was the reason we lost. His inability to extend plays with his legs and pick up first downs. The Birds are a 4-down, 8-minute offense, and he's a traditional 3-down, 4-minute offense. Yes. Nick is an idiot for kicking the field goal at the end. Yes, he is. Because, I mean, it just the production shows that he should have made a different play. I honestly don't feel bad. He's annoyed, but we needed this loss in the break-winning streak to get refocused and correct mistakes. I mean, the same thing happened for the Lions a couple weeks ago, and it paid dividends this week when they beat the Bears. So you could hopefully see a positive turnaround and see them steamroll in the playoffs to take the NFC conference and potentially go to the Super Bowl. We shall see. But at least for the Commanders, this was probably their Super Bowl of the year. The Commanders get to their 10th victory on the year by doing so. And with this win, it's their third consecutive win after the bye, them going 8-5 now. Looking at this, if you're a Commanders fan, you got to be happy for what you're seeing at this point in the year. And hopefully, with these last two games between the Falcons and the Cowboys, you can see a 12-5 season. And that would be a huge victory for yourself and anybody who's a fan of the NFL and football. With that being said, let's take it to the game of the week. And this game of the week was a surprise pick for the game of the week because one of these teams has been an absolute dumpster Pelican matchup of a team for any type of competitor for the last few seasons, that being the Carolina Panthers, and this was in Carolina. Arizona Cardinals come to town, and this game goes into overtime, but with the production between the two teams, I felt like it deserved to be the game of the week, considering the fact that it did go to overtime. Looking at this early on in the game, Chuba Hubbard had a 4-yard touchdown run with an Eddie Pinheiro kick to go up 7-0 at the end of the first quarter. Bryce Young would have 17 completed passes on 26 attempts for 158 passing yards on the day, with 2 passing touchdowns, along with 5 carries for 68 yards and a rushing touchdown, contributing 3 total touchdowns on the day. Chuba Hubbard would have 2 rushing touchdowns, one of them being for the game-decisive victory in overtime. 25 carries on the day for him, 152 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Also had 4 receptions for 13 receiving yards. And the Panthers offense together accumulated a total of 244 rushing yards on offense. Adam Thielen, 5 receptions for 43 yards in the air with a receiving touchdown. David Moore, 2 receptions for 39 yards and a receiving touchdown. For the Panthers, all that production, especially the 244 rushing yards, is something that we're not used to seeing out of this team. And it paid dividends with Chuba Hubbard's game-decisive touchdown for one of his 2 touchdowns in overtime to seal the victory over the Cardinals. The Cardinals saw a lack of production out of Murray, and that being Kyler Murray, who we like to call Kyler Duty for his liking of playing video games and Call of Duty. He gets a 20 completion day out of 32 attempts for 210 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, and an interception. Also has 8 carries for 63 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown. James Conner, the big part of this offense, though, 15 carries for 117 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. 4 receptions for 43 yards on the day. The Cardinals offense, 206 rushing yards on the day altogether between James Conner, Kyler Murray, and company. Chad Ryland, 3 of 3 on field goals with a long of 58 yards. Got this game into overtime with what he did at the end of regulation with the 58-yard field goal to tie the game up at 30. But in overtime, with only 3 minutes and 18 seconds left on their possession, the Panthers win with a 21-yard run by Chuba Hubbard. And looking at this for what it is, I just didn't think that the Panthers would beat the Cardinals even at home, with the Cardinals coming into this game 7-7 and fighting for a spot at the top of the NFC West. That's looking far-fetched at this point, as they lost to a team like this known as the Carolina Panthers. This was an upset to me, and it almost was the upset of the week, but the fact that the Commanders beat the Eagles in the fashion that they did, I had to put that as the upset, and this is the game of the week, because I figured this was more game of the week worthy than picking the Commanders as the game of the week and making it look like a potential homer pick. So do you think I got it right with the Eagles and the Commanders as the upset of the week and the Cardinals and the Panthers as the game of the week because it went to overtime? Let me know out here in the comments what you think, and we'll review that after this next commercial break. And with all that being said, that ends the opening drive as well as the game of the week. And let me record that. Let me read that again. With that being said, that ends this pick of the game of the week and the NFL Week 16 opening drive. We're going to take this into our first commercial break. And when we come back, we still have the grand champ, the snowflake of the week, and the 2-minute drill. We'll see you here after this first commercial break.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on 2. Ready? Hey!
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan, join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast, every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition,
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
man.
Where my dogs at? That's right. It's time for the Total Football Talk Grand Champ of the Week. For my selection of the Grand Champ of the Week, I'm going with Jonathan Taylor. 29 rushes for 218 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. He was literally the reason his team won. This is why I'm going with my selection of Jonathan Taylor as my pick for this week's Grand Champ of the Week for Total Football Talk. Welcome back to this program. Do you believe that he is a good choice as the pick for the Grand Champ of the Week? There being Jonathan Taylor. I mean, look at the production by the quarterback and Anthony Richardson. If it wasn't for these 3 touchdowns by Jonathan Taylor, this team would not have won, in my opinion. That is my pick for Grand Champ of the Week for this week's selection of this choice in the NFL. Welcome back as the Cowboys won't see the Super Bowl for the 29th consecutive season. Are they still them boys? What do you think? Let me know out here in the comments as we get ready to take this on into the 2-minute drill.
Total Football Talk.
We have plenty of games this weekend to discuss between not only this weekend, but this night, known as Monday. New Orleans Saints travel to Green Bay to take on the Packers. The Saints 5-9, looking to get an upset win over the 10-4 Green Bay Packers. The Packers at the top of their division in what would be most divisions of the NFL, but because they play in the same division of the Lions and the Vikings, who are 13-2, are just trying to hold on to get a 6th or 7th seed wild card spot. This division could be one of those rare feats where 3 of their teams in the division see the playoffs, and if the Packers win tonight, they will definitely get to that point when they face the Saints, who are 5-9. The Saints looking to finish with a respectable 8-9 record at the end of the year with 3 straight wins coming from tonight. And that's not going to happen. I'm sorry, with what you have facing against this Green Bay Packers team that has already gotten to double-digit wins on the year, the Packers are going to host a team that has been used to taking and they're going to do so by losing by at least 10 points or more, in my opinion. What do you think? Let me know out here in the comments. Let's get this thing started off right as Christmas is with us. And with this Christmas matchup on Wednesday of 2 teams, we have 2 teams facing each other on Christmas, and one of them being on Netflix when the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 14-1, travel to Pittsburgh to take on the 10-5 Pittsburgh Steelers at 1:00 p.m. again on Netflix. The Kansas City Chiefs, we picked against them at multiple points this year, and they have proven us wrong at 14-1. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the way they lost to the Ravens this past week, I just don't have much hope against a Kansas City Chiefs defense that has found ways to stop other teams when need be, and this offense of the Chiefs that has found ways to work the clock and just minimize turnovers and plays that affect them negatively between all 3 phases of their team. Them playing very smart on offense and playing very well on defense and on special teams is the reason why they are 14-1 and the reason why they will be 15-1 after this game as the road team on Netflix, with WWE starting things out on Netflix, and so is the NFL. There's a lot of changes and innovation, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs continue to be at the top of the NFL and the AFC conference when it's all said and done after this 1:00 contest between these 2 teams. The second game on Christmas, Baltimore Ravens, who are 10-5, travel to Houston to take on the Texans, who were 9-6. This game on ABC at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Looking at this game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Houston Texans, this one right here, when you look at the way the Ravens won, if the Ravens give the ball to Derrick Henry and he accumulates 100+ yards in a game, they're guaranteed to win the game. I mean, I was saying before, if Saquon Barkley was guaranteed like 75, accumulate 75 yards in a game, they would be guaranteed to win. And I think it's a little different when it comes to Derrick Henry, when it comes to Lamar Jackson. You know, it's nice this year for the first time in Lamar Jackson's career to see him have a running back that offsets his ability to run, to where it's a little bit more of a balanced attack, to where Lamar doesn't have to run as often, but is still productive when he does run, and he's being smart with how he runs. It's not like with other teams where with Tua, where he's not getting down soon enough and taking one too many concussions like he has in his NFL career, or Jalen Hurts, like when he got the concussion recently. So looking at Lamar Jackson and what he brings to this Baltimore Ravens team is a reason why he has been an MVP once and again. Well, one time and once and again is what I meant to say. But with him in Baltimore, Derrick Henry is still trying to become an MVP for the league with what he has done and the production that he has had on the year, especially when you look back to this past week's game with what he did. I mean, King Henry coming out there, doing damage like he has done every single week in the year. Saquon Barkley was stopped with negative, 5 rushing plays, but Derrick Henry didn't have that same option when he has 24 carries for 162 rushing yards on this day in the past game. And the Houston Texans have been struggling. I've been saying a lot about the Ravens the past few minutes. Let's look at the Houston Texans, who are 9-6, which is a pretty good record, but they have kind of stumbled and bumbled their way to a 9-6 record at this point, to a point where it's upset my co-host, Cole Johnson, to where he's been pretty upset with the fact of what they have done to get to this point at 9-6. Ugly wins, ugly ways of getting to this point, and the Baltimore Ravens have not been playing that way. They have been winning decisively in the past few weeks. To the point when looking at their overall record with where they're at, they've won 2 consecutive games, yes, but we were questioning their ability to win decisively at that 8-5 point when they had just come off of losses. And being at 8-5, things can go up or down at that point. You can still finish the season 8-9 potentially if you lose 4 straight games, but they've won the past 2 games, and with the upcoming 2 games in their future, it's looking like they have a really good chance of dominating this season at the end, as they've won the past 2 games decisively. And I feel like they're going to do that again with playing against the Houston Texans. And I'm sorry, I don't want to see that happen. Nobody wants to see, a team like the Houston Texans with a lot of hope and a lot of promise that they had coming off of last season, where we thought that there was going to be a way that this team makes some noise in the playoffs this year, and they have completely underwhelmed when it comes to some of the matchups they've had. You could be saying that as a record at 9-6 with 2 games left in the year. How can I say this? Well, you look at what they did with Tank Dell this year. This is before the injury that just took him out for the remainder of the season this past weekend. With what they did coming into this past week, 9-5 before they lost this past game. I mean, they really had to win the next 2 out of their 3 games to really put themselves in good playoff spot as far as like good seeding. And it doesn't look like, even if they lose these next games, they're in the playoffs. But I'm talking about as a fact of momentum to carry them into a potentially good start of the playoffs. It doesn't look well for them based on, 1, they just lost a star wide receiver, and 2, the way they were playing up until that point that they lost their star wide receiver. So for the Houston Texans, going against the Baltimore Ravens. Even though they are in Houston, I don't have a good feeling about this on Christmas. I feel very bad for them. I have the Baltimore Ravens improving to an 11-5 record after this Christmas Day game. The Houston Texans falling to 9-7. They will still make the playoffs. They are still in the playoffs. They are still in the hunt, but it's not looking good. Momentum is not on their side. And when you lose a player of the caliber of Tank Dell early in the third quarter like they did, who had 6 receptions for 98 yards and that touchdown at that point, it doesn't look good when your momentum shifted like it did in that game against a team of that caliber and lost of that nature. And now you're going against another team that is not as good on paper as the team you just played, but an actual better team at this point. And for you to lose your top tier weapon at this point in the year with this game and only one more remaining after that for the regular season, it's just not a good way to end it. So I feel bad for this Houston Texans team. Good luck to them, but they're going to need it in this one to pull off a huge upset. And I just don't see it happening in this one against the Baltimore Ravens. The day after Christmas, we see another game because it's unusual we have Wednesday night games, but because of the way Christmas falls this year, we're having a Wednesday night game. And then Thursday, we're having 2 Christmas games. But Thursday, the day after on the 26th, usual Thursday night football. So we'll have the Seattle Seahawks playing again, who are 8-7, traveling to Chicago to take on the 4-11 Chicago Bears. This game is a game that, like Mickey said earlier, he believes that they will win in Chicago. He had that comment earlier in the show that he believes they will beat the Chicago Bears this week. So if that's the case, the Seattle Seahawks improved to an 8-7 record. Improved to a 9-7 record this Thursday night. And the Chicago Bears followed a 4-12. They need more help. The Chicago Bears need help on defense. They need some help on the offensive line. They've got weapons for Caleb Williams. He doesn't have the time really to work with it, because even if he can scramble out to the one side, by the time he scrambles out, another defensive player's in his face because he's not getting the protection on the offensive line that he needs. So looking at this for what it is, you can blame whichever side of the ball you want. It's the coaching. It's the lack thereof in talent in some areas of the Chicago Bears, but I think it's a lot of the culture is the reason why they're going to be 4-12 at this point after 16 games this week on Thursday night. Seattle Seahawks at 9-7 after 16 games with a win like this, with what they'll have against the Bears. Pretty respectable on paper, and especially if they can find a way to finish at 10-7 after week 18. But looking at this for what it is, this matchup, it's really a game I don't even want to review, because it's a game, in my opinion, that isn't going to be a game. Chicago is not going to win this one. The best they can do is 6-11 if they win the last 2 games. I don't think that they are going to be at a point like we were talking about the Raiders a few weeks back, where they're not going to be playing for much, even though the Raiders surprised us this past week by picking up a win. But is it really so surprising when you're facing the number 32 ranked NFL defense, and not only the passing, the rushing, but in total defense production in the Jacksonville Jaguars? Are you surprised? Are you surprised at this? I'm not when it comes to that. That's why I couldn't put it as an upset of the week with the Raiders winning against a team like the Jags, because the Jags should be the one with like 1 win of the year with the way that they've played. But they didn't lose Trevor Lawrence until recently, so that's the reason why their production is what it is as of late when it comes to their offense, which was saving them in those few games that they won. But right here, right now, the defense is the absolute worst in the league, and I'm not surprised for the Raiders offense to capitalize with that, and they had to do so with the running attack. But looking at it for what it is, the Seattle Seahawks and the Chicago Bears on Prime Video at 8:15 p.m. on Thursday night. This game is going to be a snooze fest. I do not blame you if you do not watch the entire game at all. And I do not blame myself if I don't watch the entire game at all, because I will be at work for 1. But for 2, Still not sure if I'm even going to really keep tabs with it until after it's done and look at the highlights, because this game, the Seahawks should have in the bag. This should be a one day delayed from Christmas present for themselves. And we should see some production like that for them, as the Bears would fall 4-12 with this type of record after this game, and the Seahawks to 9-7 at 8:15 this Thursday night. And now let's take a look at the Thursday game. I mean, the Saturday games. Technical difficulties right there, but right here and now, when it comes to the Saturday games, there's 3 of them this week. As we get close to the end of the year, we've got bowl action for college football, but we also have NFL action on Saturday with 3 games: a 1:00 game, a 4:30 game, and an 8:15 contest this Saturday night. The first one, the Los Angeles Chargers, who are 9-6, travel to New England to take on the Patriots. The Patriots, who are 3-12. The Chargers, again, who are 9-6. This 1:00 p.m. contest is on CBS. This Chargers team at 9-6, in my opinion, should, as the road team, come in. Usually the momentum isn't on your side, but with this, because of their record and the team they're playing, the New England Patriots, they should be able to attain a win like they would in normal circumstances. Even though the Patriots almost beat the Bills this past week, I don't think it's going to be that close of a contest against a team like the Chargers, who have a different culture going on within that locker room since Brandon Staley's gotten out of there and Jim Harbaugh's come in. We've seen a complete shift in how they play and how their attitude is, even on the sidelines when they're behind in certain games, and even in the ways that they have lost in those 6 losses. So for what it is that I have to see here with the Chargers, I feel like they're going to improve to 10-6. The Patriots fall to 3-13 in this 1:00 contest on CBS. Technology got them again. All right, now to the next one here on Saturday. The Broncos are 9-6, traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals, who are 7-8. This Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. ABC and ESPN will have this game. When it comes to this, these 2 teams, it will actually be a lot better of a contest than what we will see between Thursday night's game and the first game of Saturday. So your first real matchup after Christmas, after the first 2 games, will be in this third game after Christmas, which will be again at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time this Saturday. The 9-6 Broncos traveling to Cincinnati to take on the 7-8 Bengals, and I have the Bengals winning this game, improving to 8-8 over a Denver Broncos team that, yes, has had some really great sparks in these 9 wins that they have had this year, with Bo Nix trying to make a case for himself to be a rookie of the year. But when it comes to this Broncos team, led by Sean Payton and the coaching, what they've gotten out of their offense on the ground and their rushing attack, the protection that they've had, their defense in certain aspects doing what they've done, they deserve to have a winning record, and they will, because, at the worst, they lose these next 2 games, this one and then the one after, and fall to 9-8. And I feel like that's going to happen at least to 9-7, and could potentially finish 10-7 when we talk about it next week. But I feel like they lose this game, and it'll be an upset for them. But for the Bengals, who have been literally fighting and clawing their way into staying relevant, at least to finish with some type of decency, in a similar case like the Dallas Cowboys of the NFC, this being the AFC story for a team like that, being the Cincinnati Bengals, I feel like they do this in an upset against the Broncos, and they do this at home in Cincinnati, where they will have the home field advantage with the crowd, with, just the momentum of the game. If this was in Denver, I would give them the home field advantage with the altitude and the way things go over there in Colorado. I would give them the shift there. But in this one, between these 2 teams, I have the Denver Broncos losing to the Cincinnati Bengals And with that being said, let's go and go on to the next game right here for the Saturday matchups. And next on the Saturday matchups, the Arizona Cardinals, who are 7-8, travel to Los Angeles to take on the Rams, who are 9-6. 8:15 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock this Saturday night, the third and final of the 3 games on this day, this Saturday. Again, the Arizona Cardinals 7-8, losing a surprise game this past week, taking on the Los Angeles Rams, who were 9-6 and at home. I feel like with the lackluster play of the LA Rams this past week in the Arizona Cardinals, this was a huge slap in the face for the Cardinals to lose the way that they did to the Carolina Panthers, especially for James Conner with his production that he did well, and Kyler Murray. Had he not thrown that interception, they would have won this game and it not have even gone to overtime. So looking at it for what it is, I feel like with some help with some special teams, the Cardinals would get back on track as far as winning, as far as finishing this season with some pride and with some dignity. They'll get to an 8-8 record with 1 game left. It could potentially finish with a 9-8 record by the time it's all said and done after 18 weeks in the season. The LA Rams can afford a loss here, 9-7. I mean, neither one of these teams, despite making the playoffs, if either one of them do, can really make a run. Let's look at it for what it is. The Rams being banged up, these teams out here not making a whole bunch of noise to really threaten anybody throughout the year on paper. So not just on paper, but in real time. Look at it for what it is between the Cardinals and the Rams. These teams might give us a good matchup on Saturday night, but I don't think overall whether the Rams win this game and get to 10-6, potentially 11-6 by the end of it, make a playoff run. I don't think that they're going to be more dominant than what the Cardinals could have been had they had an extra couple wins. It's just not viable in my opinion. It'll be a good matchup between the two. I feel like this is not going to be decided by double digits. It's going to be by 1 possession or less. And when it comes to this game right here, I'm going to go with the Cardinals to win this one, improve to 8-8. The Rams fall to 9-7. And we'll talk more about that next Monday, hopefully with Cole after his holiday break. That rounds out the Saturday games. Let's go ahead and take this into the Sunday games. And here with the Sunday games, we have 9 games to talk about this upcoming Sunday. And with these games, first one, it's kind of a dumpster pelican contest between the Carolina Panthers, who are now 4-11, traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers, who are 8-7, losing a surprise game this past week for the Bucs, and the Panthers winning a surprise game this past week. I don't really think the Panthers are going to be able to do the same in this upcoming week against the Buccaneers, who in the same division are fighting for the NFC South. Even if the Buccaneers win, they still don't even control their own destiny because they really need the Falcons to lose against the Commanders in this upcoming week's contests of games. And I feel like they may get some help with that. And I feel like they will also win this game at home against the Panthers, even though the Panthers have been on a roll lately. I feel like Tampa Bay a little embarrassed by what happened this past week when you look at what they did in their matchup against the Cowboys. The Cowboys mathematically eliminated from the playoffs this year and from their 29th consecutive opportunity at going towards a Super Bowl. Weren't playing for much, and they had the opportunity of winning well, they should have won, and taking this opportunity away from, taking the opportunity of the NFC South away from the Falcons, but they didn't do that. And they lost to the Cowboys. And now you have a game against the Panthers where you don't control your own destiny pretty much. If the Falcons win, you're pretty much doomed. So they need this win more than the Falcons even need to win. And I feel like they're going to get it against Carolina at home. This will be the first of 2 consecutive wins they'll have. And the Falcons, we'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about playoff implications for both. But for the Buccaneers, here and now, I've got them winning this to improve to 9-7. The Panthers falling to 4-12. This game again being on CBS at 1:00 p.m. this upcoming Sunday. For those of you out there who love football, football lovers, 1:00 game again. New York Jets, who are 4-11, traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills, who were 12-3. This being an interdivision matchup. CBS 1:00 p.m. has this kickoff. With this being said, the Jets, who have been dumpster Pelicans this year and have won and lost by very close scores, and also lost by pretty decisive scores as well, take on a team in the Buffalo Bills who just had a very, very close game with themselves, playing against a dumpster Pelican team in the same division known as the Patriots at this point. That being said, there's potential that this could be a similar type of game, and the Bills could potentially fall to 12-4 after playing against an Aaron Rodgers-led New York Jets team with Davante Adams that could be taking over in the offense against a weak Bills defense if they play the way that they did this past week and can humanize Josh Allen for a second consecutive week. With that being said, I don't think that's going to be the potential outcome of this. I think that Josh Allen steps it up knowing that he played like an absolute dumpster Pelican the previous week. He's going to do so in this game against the Jets. Aaron Rodgers won't play horrific like he played at the start of the year. I think he'll play pretty respectable. I think Davante Adams will play pretty respectable too, but I think this ends in a similar fashion of this past week with the Patriots and the Bills, where it's a 24-21 game. I got 27-24 Bills over the Jets at home for this 1:00 p.m. game on CBS. The Indianapolis Colts, who are 7-8, travel to New York to take on the Giants, who are 2-13. This game will be on Fox, 1:00 p.m. Eastern time this Sunday. The Colts should not lose this game against a disgrace of a squad in the New York Giants. New York Giants will fall to 2-14. The Colts will improve to 8-8. This game again, Fox, 1:00 p.m. this Sunday. Green Bay Packers, who are 10-4, travel to Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Vikings, who are 13-2. This game on Fox, 1:00 p.m. Eastern time this Sunday. This being an interdivision squad matchup. Interdivision matchup between two teams that makes a big impact for the Minnesota Vikings, at least more so than the Packers. The Packers should having a win on this Monday night's matchup between the Saints and them at home. At this point, they would be 11-4 if they win that game. For those of you watching this on BS3 Network, you're watching this post, so you'll be able to know the answer as you're watching this recording. But at that point, I'm going to guess the 11-4 Green Bay Packers will be taking on the Minnesota Vikings, who are 13-2 at 1:00 on Fox this upcoming Sunday. With that being said, I feel like the Vikings are going to win this one, and they've been doing it so in 8 consecutive games, finding ways to win. I feel like even though they're playing against a really good Packers team that are coming off of a good win in this Monday night's matchup against the Saints, 11-4 is nothing to bat an eye at. But at the same time, both of these teams could potentially be wild card teams depending on what goes on with the Lions. And the Minnesota Vikings are tied with the Lions, and this would bring more drama to that Week 18 matchup between them and the Lions with the same record at 14-2. And I feel like they attain that by beating the 11-4 Packers in this game. Packers would fall to 11-5. The Vikings would improve to 14-2 with 1 game left against the Lions for the division in 2024. Next game, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, who are 3-12, traveling to New Orleans to take on the 5-9 Saints. At this point, we'll say the 5-10 Saints. Fox has this game 1 p.m. Eastern time this Sunday. I've got this being the dumpster Pelican matchup of the week. Despite this New Orleans Saints not being as bad as the Raiders on paper, this is going to be a game very similar to the Raiders and the Jags, an absolute dumpster Pelican matchup. The Raiders will lose this game, though, and they will fall to 3-13. The Saints will improve to 6-10 coming off of that loss to the Packers on Monday Night Football. With that being said, moving on to the Titans of Tennessee, who are 3-12, traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars, who are also 3-12, possibly the number one of two dumpster Pelican matchups of the week, like previously mentioned with the Raiders and the Saints. This will probably top that because both teams will be going for a top 5 NFL draft pick with the way they are playing each other in this contest. CBS has this as the final 1 p.m. game of the previously mentioned games. This rounds out the final 1 game of the week, with this being on CBS. Again, both teams 3-12, and I don't think anybody really cares if either team wins, loses, or ties. And regardless if you watch it or you don't, people in attendance will be taken there. Because this game will absolutely suck to watch. But with that being said, you got to pick a winner. Somebody's got to win. And I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Have the more potential, in my opinion, to win this game, improving to 4-12 at home. It's the Titans on the road. I just don't have much hope for them. They have been absolutely terrible this year, and I don't pick them for anything positive in this NFL league of teams where 31 others don't play as bad. Well, 30 others don't play as bad as either one of these two teams. So I just had to pick a winner. I think everybody loses in this one. All right. The Miami Dolphins take the first 4 game, this being the 4:05 kick game for the Dolphins, who are 7-8, traveling to Cleveland to take on the Browns, who are 3-12. In this matchup right here, I feel like the Dolphins are going to win this road game and improve to 8-8. Cleveland Browns will fall to 3-13. What else do you expect when you have a team of the caliber of the Cleveland Browns, who have their third-string quarterback out there at this point, coming off of things they've come off this year? The Dolphins are trying to make a comeback. They're doing a decent job, but they still it's tough to watch with the way they've had to make these comebacks the past couple of years, and it's all as a result of two is injuries. They will, however, find a way to come back for this game, get to 8-8 for the record going into the final game of the year. And at this point, again, the Browns will fall to 3-13. The second of the 4 o'clocks is at 4:25 p.m. Eastern time, this being another divisional matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Dallas Cowboys, who are 7-8 in this season, traveling to Philadelphia to take on the now 12-3 Philadelphia Eagles. Looking at this for what it is, Philadelphia Eagles are no slouch of a team. They have been doing what they've been doing throughout this season, wreaking havoc, and they could have been 13-2 coming into this, but this has more implications of not only the second seed of the NFC, but for the division as well. A win for the Cowboys and a win by the Commanders, along with the Commanders win the upcoming week, would have them tied for the record of the NFC East, and also it would have them at second for the conference, for the division, and going into a wild card spot potentially if all that plays out. If they lose this game, and it starts off here after losing to the Commanders last week. So the Cowboys beat the Eagles. It takes them to 12-4, and the Cowboys to 8-8. And you know what? This 4:25 p.m. Eastern time, dramatic offset of a matchup, I'm going to go with the upset of the week here. Dallas Cowboys improved to 8-8. The Eagles will fall to 12-4. And we're going to talk about another team that could potentially overtake the NFC East after this matchup right here. If things go the way that I just predicted, with the Cowboys improving to 8-8 with a win over the Philadelphia Eagles, who fall to 12-4, the Atlanta Falcons traveling to Washington to take on the Commanders would have serious implications or aftermath effects if the Commanders were to win the game against the Falcons here. And the Falcons, who are playing for a playoff spot as well for the NFC South, you look at what they're doing over there. And you look at them being at the top and with controlling their destiny if they win this game. The Commanders, same thing, with potentially either a playoff spot as a wild card or as a not as a wild card or as the division winner if they can get a loss out of the Eagles like I just predicted in this week. And if they would lose the upcoming game after that as well for the week 18 for the Eagles and the Commanders win that. And it all starts here. All starts with this NFC matchup between the Falcons and the Commanders in Washington for this NPC contest at 8:20 p.m. Eastern time this Sunday night. I have the Commanders improving to 11-5, even though, yes, it's a homer pick. You can say whatever you want. Improving to 11-5, and the Falcons falling to 8-8 after 16 games. The Commanders would have their fourth consecutive win of the season, and the Falcons would end their 2-game winning streak if all this were to take an effect. I'm sorry, guys, but this is just how I feel when it comes to this situation right here. I'm going with this pick right here. You can't not go with any other pick besides this one right here. And I'm going to go with that for my pick here for Washington taking the win. It's an 11-5 record this Sunday night on NBC. Jaden Daniels has been lighting it up. You look at what he did. He was like 91% of their offense in the past week's game, getting them to their third consecutive victory on the year and going from, 7-5 to now 10-5 with their third consecutive win. So looking at it for what it is, you have to give a huge, huge shout out to that on a 2-minute drill. And I'm going with that. And I'm going with that for Jaden Daniels as my pick as not only the MVP of that game, but the Rookie of the Year for the NFL after the production that we're going to see not only in this game, but what he's done in the games leading up to this in the 15 previous games.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
And with that being said, let's go ahead and take this into our next commercial break. When we come back, we'll have the Snowflake of the Week in the post game to round out this episode.
Later, the post game. But coming up next, the 2-minute drill. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated. Later, the post game. But coming up next, the 2-minute drill. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated, creating content magic in the real world.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the evening.
this Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know.
Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. $, D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. If you want your Commanders to be repped right, well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern, 12:05 a.m. Central on the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Left side.
As long as it's one. Oh, that's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. That's right. We are at that part where we're almost at the post game, but we have to celebrate one thing before we get to that point, and that is my favorite point of the week, the snowflake of the week. The button disappeared. The button disappeared. I'm gonna find the button. The button disappeared. The button disappeared from 2-minute drill to snowflake. The button disappeared.
Total football talk.
Oh, yeah. It's my favorite time of the show where we talk about the snowflake of the week. And right here for the snowflake of the week, we have to take it to my pick this week, and that is Josh Allen, 16 of 29 for completions out of attempts, 154 passing yards on the day. He had 1 touchdown and an interception. MVP caliber athletes do not play like this is my main tagline. What do you guys think? Let me know out here in the comments what your thoughts are. Is Josh Allen the right choice for the snowflake of the week? That's who I have as the Total Football Talks pick for snowflake of the week. And yes, just as a reminder, the Cowboys won't see the Super Bowl for the 29th consecutive season. Are they still them boys? All that and more when we get to the post game to round out this episode for episode 69. As long as it's one. Oh, that's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it. And yes, our post game topic, still them boys. For those of you out there who are fans of football, for those of you out there who are fans of this team right here.
Ain't nobody calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, are you still involved? Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still involved? Delete! 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 Delete!
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
The story is this. Cowboys won't see the Super Bowl for the 29th consecutive season. That's my smiling face at the top. You can
acknowledge me
for this graphic right here, because the Cowboys won't see the Super Bowl for the 29th consecutive season. Damn! Will they see it for the 30th?
Hell to the no, to the no. Hell no, to the no.
And based on the upcoming and the past success for this team, based on the past 29 years, is this a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
I don't think so. Oh, you can.
Acknowledge me.
When it comes to the Dallas Cowboys and success.
This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation.
How'd you like that one? Now back to the program. When it comes to this team known as the Dallas Cowboys, they have no hope for their 30th consecutive season. They will see the when Dak Prescott comes back, I feel like they're going to have better success this year with potentially finishing with a 9-8 record and missing the playoffs than they would if Dak was there for all 17 games next year. Call it for what it is, but you have Jaden Daniels playing the way that he is for the Commanders. You have what you have over there in Philadelphia as a collective unit for this team on offense and defense. If Nick Sirianni can keep his head out of his rear end, I think that the Eagles have a better shot, along with the Commanders, of taking the top two spots of this division and running the NFC than the Cowboys do with the talent that they have. They have no running attack. They need help on offense with their protection, and they need a quarterback to stay healthy consistently. There is no way that you will see anything other than the cries and the boo-hoo of the nation known as them boys.
Hey. Ain't nobody call.
Stop it. Get some help.
Yeah, if nobody's calling you, stop it and get some help before it continues to carry on this tune as well.
This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
About them boys. Them boys going to the Super Bowl. No. Sorry, Vicola. You know on the other side you're saying this.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Now, there's plenty of hope for next year for their 30th consecutive year to end the curse of that on the 30th consecutive year.
That was a lie.
Come on now. We gotta pause that. And for those crying snowflakes out there,
You can't handle the truth.
and for those of you who are not fans of the Cowboys, you know right now.
You like that? You like that?
Oh!
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on now, Cowboy Nation. You have to make better decisions when it comes to your management. Your owner needs to get out of the front office and hire real people that can make business decisions. Look at what happened over there with the Commanders when you have a different change in management, changes the culture, bringing in a coach that fits that type of culture established by management. It's working well.
What?
It's working very, very well.
What?
For the Commanders, I'm serious.
What?
You all out there know what I'm talking about. Don't act like you don't. Those of you out there just tuning in.
What's that?
Get to your comments here in a second.
What?
I promise I will get to your comments here in a second.
What?
But when it comes to this topic right here, as we them boys,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no way They're going to be able to pull their heads out of their rear ends until they make those decisions at the top of the chain with making different decisions at management, getting Jerry out of there as far as the day-to-day operations. Let him be the owner, but making the business decisions for the team and stuff like that outside of the roster and the team itself. He can do marketing or whatever he wants because he's building an empire for that franchise, but he needs to stay out of the personnel. They need to truly
Stop it. Get some help.
Let me talk to you.
Basically, Jerry, you need to.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
The breaking news is that won't happen until Jerry is dead or is not of sound mind to be in public and make public decisions for this team anymore. And his family having a chance to potentially carry the tradition of making bad decisions in management. So they're not going to win in their 30th consecutive year from their last Super Bowl appearance. It's going to continue as a streak that nobody wants to have out here in sports. Guys, you got a few comments. I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge them as we round out the show real quick. Six says, when you're the starting quarterback, it's your responsibility to lead the team to victory. So Josh Allen deserves everything. Yes, exactly. When we're talking about the Snowflake of the Week pick, that's why I made him my selection for Snowflake of the Week. There's a soccer equivalent to the Dallas Cowboy fans, the fans of New England's men's national soccer team. Whether it's the World Cup or the Euro, the fans always say it's coming home. I like that. I would have to agree with that as well. They're sick. In fact, they will sing at games. They'll sing it at the games. Okay. And Vicala knows how moronic most Dallas Cowboy fans are. Yes. I'm going to edit that into a montage in this episode that I send out for the audio and the pre-recorded MP4 versions. But thank you as always for tuning in, you guys, for the comments. Sick, Mick, Dante out there, for those of you out there who were able to tune in while this was live. For those of you watching this during the replay on BS3 Network, listening on WQEE 99.1 FM, Real Wise Radio, and those are the other ones out there carrying this product. Thank you so much for all your contributions for Total Football Talk for myself and Cole. We greatly appreciate you. Cole, hopefully, is at with his family, and I will talk to him once his recording is done. But he was unable to make this today because of traveling for the holidays and this being recorded on Monday. So thank you as always to those of you who put up with me for 2 hours on this product, for listening to my predictions and to what I have in store for this week and the recap from this past week. Commanders, 10 wins. Did not think this was possible at the start of this year. I was wrong with my predictions then, and just like I could be wrong with any predictions that I have from this episode, I'll own up to it next week, as there were wrong mistakes that I made from the past week, but there's also good ones. I said the Lions were going to lose to the Bills, and then I said the Commanders were going to beat the Eagles in the past 2 weeks of episodes for this show, and I was absolutely right. So we'll see what happens with the predictions that I made from this week. We'll see what happens with the recap that we have with this upcoming week, and if Cole can be here for the final episode of 2024 next week on December 30th, we shall see. But right here and now, I've only got one thing left to tell you as we get on out of here before we look at one awesome outro. Well, actually two. I'm going to try to say Cole's line as well. In life, like in football, keep your head up and remember to keep playing until the whistle blows. And as always, stay safe out here in these streets. We're going to do things a little bit differently tonight because I forgot, with it being Christmas, this Monday episode happening tonight, as we are live here on Monday, is just before Christmas. So for the recorded version, I wanted to say that for those of you out there celebrating Christmas, happy holidays. Thank you as always for your fanhood and for tuning in. And hopefully if you are watching this on Christmas, that you're doing it and enjoying it with your friends and loved ones, your family out there, out here in these streets. And for those of you watching right now, shout out to you, as we have done 69 episodes at this point of Total Football Talk. And again, couldn't do this without you. Couldn't have done this without Cole. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all of you out there who celebrate whichever holiday you celebrate out here in these streets. Take care, as we only have one more thing left to do, and that is to roll on out of here.